I want to pick up on something, if you don't mind. Marx is very clear on this topic, and he elaborates on it in the appendix, on the value form, of Volume 1. By an exchange value, Marx means the magnitude of value. The magnitude of value, a quantitative measurement, is determined by the socially necessary labor time required to reproduce that commodity. The magnitude, Marx says, should not be confused with value itself. Value is a social phenomenon, which Marx claims dictates the allocation of capital and labor on the market. Value has both magnitude and form. The form of value is
Fiercely, I'd like to thank you for the discussion at the end of your reply. That provides me with a lot of useful references that I will add to my reading list. I see that you know a lot about the topic. I agree with you that the internet debates on this kind of thing generally aren't very good. Your reading list is an excellent alternative. I'll reply some more on some of the issues you bring up later. You mentioned later in your reply that even lots of modern leftists aren't so interested in reading the literature on Marx. I think what you write here shows part of the problem. You write Marx is very clear on this topic. To me, what you write couldn't be any more confusing. You notice that the automat here leaves a sarcastic little comment about Marx every time he's mentioned. This is exactly why. I think that, to the rest of us, Marxist language is very confusing. There are long complex sentences and the same words are used to mean a plethora of different things. For this reason I'm not convinced that Marxists even understand each other half the time.
When we talk about the value of an individual commodity, we're talking about a quantity, possibly measured in hours of simple, unskilled labor time. That's a magnitude, a pure number. Labor value doesn't mean anything, and only serves to make things more confusing. Marx provides three categories in capital. There's use value and exchange value. Then what's price? Price is the money name of exchange value, i.e. the socially necessary labor embodied in the commodity. But it's just a name. Marx says that a thing can have price without having value. Honor, or certain titles granted by the state, for instance. In Volume 1, Marx goes with the presupposition that the price of a commodity is proportional to its value. As with all other concepts in capital, when we go from more abstract to more concrete, the assumptions are gradually dropped. By Volume 3 Marx shows that commodities can't be presumed to exchange proportional to values, and in fact they exchange at prices of production quoting.
I understand your last two paragraphs. They cover things that are familiar territory for me. I will reply to you carefully later on. Fiercely, I want to ask something to everyone else reading this thread. Am I the only one who finds this confusing? Does anyone else understand what unlucky foreigner is saying?
Yeah, I'm confused too. The opening paragraph here is baffling. When we talk about the value of an individual commodity, we're talking about a quantity, possibly measured in hours of simple, unskilled labor time. That's a magnitude, a pure number. Something that can be measured in hours isn't a pure number, because it obviously is not dimensionless. On a somewhat related note, I was horrified but ultimately unsurprised to find out that cockshot is a holodomorph.
Sorry, that was my mistake. The point I was trying to make was that the numerator of the magnitude of value has no bearing on its
I understand about 30% of what you're saying in this reply, like the others. Still, I can make something from that. Fiercely, on your view of exchange value, I still believe that I'm right on this subject. I think that to Marx exchange value just meant price. That's consistent with the classical economists and with Marx's earlier work, like the quote I gave at the start of this discussion. I think that most of the time, and maybe every time, when Marx wrote value by itself he meant labor value, i.e. SNLT weighted for skill.
Thanks for the reply. I'll first throw out a quote that is the overriding theme of my point, and perhaps the most important piece of evidence for Marx's view of value and price. Marx, Outlines of the Critique, 1986, p. 76, emphasis his. There's no textual evidence for that claim in Marx, and in fact it goes against all Marx scholarship so far, whether consulting the TSSI proponents or value form theorists. There's simply no room to make that claim. Price is the necessary form of appearance of exchange value, but it isn't exchange value in itself. Murray and the TSSI theorists agree that the exchange-only view leads to ontological collapse, Freeman's words. This is confirmed by this quote from Marx in capital I, p. 195, Ben Fowke's translation of 1976.
Parts of your replies I still don't understand. I don't understand what you or Marx are trying to say about gold.